Welcome back to the Education Corner podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we are speaking to Mr. Bart Wielenga, who is the headmaster of Blundell School in Devon. We talk about their wonderful location, their community feel, their sporting excellence, their main entry points, their academics, and much more, so stay tuned.
We're thrilled, Bart, to have Blundell's on our podcast and to be able to talk to you about the school and the many things that it has to offer so many children, both locally and from far afield. One of our first questions that we wanted to ask was, your motto is Roots and Wings, and there seems to be a strong push towards developing beyond the classroom. Could you tell us more about this ethos and the aim of Blundell's?
Thanks very much for having me on your podcast, Chloe, and it's always a pleasure to be able to talk about the school. There's so much going on here. You'll have a job in your hands to keep me from nattering on too much. In terms of Roots and Wings, it's very much been part of the fabric of the school. We want to give children that strong sense of foundation, but at the same time, a great sense of aspiration. Our formal school logo, our motto is Pro Patria Popolo, which is for the country and for the people. And in one of our local pubs, there's a Blundell shield which says Pro Patria Popolo and slightly misquoted or misinterpreted as for country people. So we'll stick to Roots and Wings. It makes it a little bit simpler. But yes, what is that we prepare young people for life after school. And school actually does for its pupils is the impact that young people have on their communities and society after they leave. So we take that part of it very seriously. And of course, getting a good set of grades matters. Grades open up opportunities. But really, it's all those other things that we do at school that equip young people with the skills that they need to be successful in contributing to society. So yes, there's so much of school that happens outside the classroom that engages all the different facets of the development of a young person.
In the Good Schools Guide, they say pupils are grounded and unpretentious, as grounded and unpretentious as you will find at any UK boarding school, the kind who will have a go and take a risk. This is a wonderful quote and such important characteristics to instill in young people, particularly in the modern day. Why do you think this is, and how could other private schools encourage a similar style?
I'm sure that we're not that different to many other good schools in that regard. As a sector, across independent schools, we want our children to be relevant and to be mindful of the world outside of the school walls. I do think that Blundellians are particularly grounded. Perhaps that may have something to do with the part of the world that we're in. I suspect it's also part of the culture of the school, what pupils teach each other. And a few years ago, I asked a group of our upper sixth pupils who were about to leave school what their advice would be to new pupils who are about to join. And what they said, more than anything else, is tell them to respect effort. And it was a lovely insight into what pupils really value, and what they wanted for future Blundellians was children who came to the school who really did their best, rather than just simply being brilliant at something. What children here at school value are children who muck in, who contribute, who constantly want to improve. And so that is part of that groundedness, is that nobody thinks that they're better or more special. Everybody wants to learn and to contribute. So it is very much part of what we do. I think pupils also appreciate what a privilege it is to be here, and part of that gratitude translates into nice children who make the most of the opportunity, and that groundedness is a part of that.
You have some superb academic enrichment programs for children who want to stretch themselves academically, and also that includes excursions. And recently we saw that you visited the Houses of Parliament. Can you talk about some of these societies and how they work?
Yeah, one of the things that we've done recently is we've reduced the number of GCSEs from 10 GCSEs to 9. And the main reason we've done that is because we feel that the time it takes to teach a 10th GCSE, we can use better in doing enrichment activities. We have a program of electives that children can choose to sign up to. We also, in year 9, we have a character education program, which has some character lessons, but also focuses on service in the community, as well as well-being. So we've taken the opportunity to take some academic element out and to replace it with more of an enrichment program. And we feel very comfortable and confident in that. But the program specifically that we have that you make mention of are what we call the Phoenix Society, which is our extension program for the younger years, year 9, 10, and 11. And those are hugely varied, successful to all pupils, but that might involve some work that might be more focused on A-level work, but that pupils in year 9 can access as part of their own enrichment and extension. So there's quite a few of those kind of things happening, and certainly when it comes to the sixth form, we have a number of pathways for medics, for future law students. And so those are all tailored to particular needs of groups of pupils and interests of groups of pupils. But it's our intention that all pupils look beyond the normal GCSE and A-level program for opportunities to really dig deeper into the areas that they are most interested in. And I think nowadays we have more scope for that. There's EPQs and other types of ways in which children can enrich themselves outside of the traditional academic program.
I noticed you offered some more specific subjects such as photography, music, tech, film studies. How do these opportunities help to broaden a student's education? Are they proving to be popular as well?
I think, again, there's no question that when pupils do subjects that they're interested in, that fascinate them, that they feel that they can succeed in, then they work harder, they're more motivated, and find things that they're really passionate about. And we've had great success from that perspective in finding things that pupils really love to do. And so whilst those subjects that you've mentioned, things like music, technology, and photography and film study, they tend to be quite smaller classes of perhaps 4 or 5 pupils at a time. And so they might not be quite as big as some of the mainstream subjects, your geography and your sciences and economics and the like. But for us, the priority is making sure that we find something for everyone that they can get excited about, that they feel that they can achieve in. If school isn't about finding your passions, then we're probably missing out on something. So it is about that. We've recently opened a dance studio, so it's our intention that we'll be able to offer a dance GCSE as well. So we're always looking for those opportunities so we can broaden our curriculum for a wider number of pupils.
I actually remember, they're probably going back 10 years, but I remember the art studio. It was absolutely astounding. And you've got the space as well to be able to exhibit the art, which is just breathtaking. It's something that's stuck in my mind. Now, moving on to the extracurricular, obviously you excel at sport. Can you tell me a little bit about the sports that are offered? I do remember from Mrs. Huggett, the horse riding, which must be very tempting to many. Are there any more unique sports that, due to your location, you feel you offer?
Yeah, sports are a big part of school life, and particularly in the younger years, we insist that all pupils participate in team sports. And the main reason for that is because we think that there's so many wonderful life lessons that can be learned from being part of a team. And so that is the great emphasis in the younger years. And so for boys, sports like rugby and hockey and cricket, football are prominent, and girls, hockey and netball are popular. But having said that, girls rugby and girls cricket are also growing really, really quickly. So there is still a predominance of team sports focus, and that builds community, it builds life skills and all those things. As pupils move up through the years, they do have greater freedom to choose more specialist things. And you've mentioned equestrianism, and of course, being where we are, lots of our families locally keep their own horses. So we've got a formidable equestrian team who ride in various one-day events, and we host our own one-day event at Pontypool, where we're going to be next season. And so we have other things, I suppose, like sailing, which many families here in Devon and Cornwall love doing together. So we have that as an option. But then lots of the other outdoor sports and outdoor pursuits, things like Duke of Edinburgh is very well subscribed to. All our pupils in Year 9 do the Bronze Award. We have the 10 Tours Challenge, which is one of those things. It's always a little bit crazy because kids end up having to train terribly hard in dreadful conditions, but they all seem to thrive and love doing it despite the hardships. And so those are the kind of things that are there. We've also got some of the other sports, which are more traditional public school sports, but that aren't played very widely anymore, like fives. And it's a wonderful game that so many of our pupils learn when they come here. So again, it comes down to this idea of finding something for everyone, and unlocking people's passions and enthusiasm, so that when they're at school, they really engage. They always have things to look forward to. There's always something happening for them.
Do you still, I remember the chapel, and do you still have Latin services?
So we have Latin prayer. Yes, we have Latin prayer on Monday mornings. And so Latin prayer it's a great name for a rather traditional Monday morning assembly. The only difference is that the assembly ends with the Lord's Prayer read in Latin, with a little bit of a Blundell's extension on the end. So it's called Latin prayer, and everybody in the Blundell's community knows exactly what Latin prayer means, but it really is assembly with the Lord's Prayer in Latin at the end of it. But other days of the week, Tuesday through to Friday, we start each day with a short chapel service, which we've missed terribly during COVID because we haven't been able to sing hymns. And above all else, it's a lovely way to start the day, and pupils do like to have a good sing along at the start of the day as well. So everybody starts. We've missed it.
Obviously, it's a wonderful location in Tiverton in Devon. What particular opportunities do you feel that this offers to children that schools perhaps in the cities can't access, or have to travel to access, perhaps?
That's right. I think one of the things that you notice immediately when you drive to the school is the space around us. And just being in the middle of the school, if you look up around the site, there's green rolling hills and lots of lovely big trees. So you do feel like you are in a park-like setting. And just that sense of openness and space, of fresh air in itself is very good for us, and it makes it a wonderful environment in which to work, but also an environment in which pupils can thrive. I think from that perspective, that although school is tremendously busy, the program is incredibly full, the pace of life here still feels to be more manageable and sustainable. You don't have the noise of traffic the whole time, and it is a more peaceful environment. We enjoy that. Just in terms of being in Devon, it does mean that our boarders have regular trips to Taunton Sands or Croyd or Westward Ho for their surfing trips. And we make good use of Exmoor and Dartmoor, various outings and and our outdoor pursuits. So it's just being in the setting that is quite therapeutic in itself. I think it's easy to take for granted, but it's only when you've been out of Devon for a little bit and you drive back into the rolling hills that you remind yourself how to live in such a lovely setting.
So true. But equally very accessible for both international students and students perhaps coming from London.
That's an interesting, absolutely. And because we've got, we just on the M5, we just got the M5 down the road, and we've got really good rail links to big cities. And with Exeter and Bristol Airport not far away, we do find that we are in a good location from a convenience perspective. And we are finding, of course, that we have a growing market of families who are relocating from the southeast to the southwest. And we've had a tremendously busy year, that as people and families have reassessed their own priorities and their own values, as parents have worked out that perhaps they can work more from home, that they've prioritized the location for where they want to live. And that's meant that for us, we've had a huge influx of families from cities who want to live in the southwest, and have actually found that perhaps we're not so far away as they thought. And that's been a lovely boon for us.
And the international aspect that I do remember from many years ago, you do also welcome quite a few families from abroad, don't you?
Yeah, so we have
obviously difficult times at the moment.
We're an interesting market in that regard, because whilst we're a full boarding school and quite a traditional boarding school, we also have quite a big local day community. And I think there's something very strong in that, because what you have on the one hand is quite a cosmopolitan pupil body, but it's still very well rooted in the local community. And lots of families do live locally. In terms of our international market, it's diverse. We have pupils, and it's been interesting that despite Brexit, we still have a number of pupils, a healthy number of pupils coming from Europe, and particularly from Germany, but also from France and Spain. We have a lovely community of families from Mumbai in India, and we were very lucky to go on a cricket tour there just before lockdown, where our first 11 were very well looked after by our families in Mumbai. And then we've got our community in Hong Kong and in China. And more recently, we've enjoyed having pupils from Kenya. Kenya's got some fantastic prep schools, and the transition from the Kenyan prep schools to Blundell's seems to be a particularly good one.
That's very good to know. The school's greatest strength is the all-round element. There are music scholars in the first 15 rugby team. That was stated in the school guide. It's wonderful that students are encouraged to get involved in so many activities, as we've mentioned already. Do you feel, obviously, that this quote is a good representation of a kind of typical Blundellian?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of truth in it. I'm just thinking off the top of my head of some of the pupils we have now, and certainly we've got a first team cricket captain who's also an outstanding artist, and one of the lead parts in the school play is also an excellent sportsman. So yes, people are able to succeed across a variety of fields. I think at the same time, I don't want it to sound like a few pupils have the leads in everything, and that's absolutely not the case. But any pupil can succeed at anything, and a pupil who has a lead part in the play gets the same, I suppose, recognition and the same accolades as somebody who makes 100 for the first 11 cricket team, or somebody who scores the goals for the first 11 hockey side. And I think that's one of the really real strengths, is that pupils admire success and achievement, but also effort and dedication. Well, part of Latin prayer, which we referred to and mentioned earlier, is that we make our colours awards, full school colours. The full school colours can be made to any year 13 pupils for outstanding achievement in any field. But part of Latin prayer is when I read out the citation for the Full Colours Award, and the citation is usually quite detailed and really reflects a bit of the story of why the pupil has been made this award. And they receive their stripy blazers, which are quite distinctive in the school. But the lovely thing about the full school colours, that after I've read the citation, the pupil comes up to receive their award, they get a really sincere, heartfelt and warm ovation from the school. They recognise and enjoy and celebrate the success of their peers. And it's one of the really lovely aspects of our school is how they celebrate each other's successes. And so there's a healthy competitiveness, but at the heart of our school, there's collaboration and a togetherness and a collective pride in each other's achievements.
That's wonderful. I know you're aiming to set up an endowment fund to try and give students bursaries that can be, in many cases, life transforming. Could you tell me a little bit more about this?
I think the challenge for all independent schools is that more than anything else, we want to be schools where children thrive. We want to see children succeed. We want to see children making the most of opportunities that a school like this has to offer. And I don't know a head at a school like this who doesn't have that ambition for their school, to fill it with children who will succeed, who will absolutely make the most of every moment. And none of us want that to be restricted or limited by access. And so the ambition behind an endowment fund is that we find pupils who will thrive in this environment, regardless of their financial resources. And we believe that an endowment fund in the long term will enable us to create that access for more pupils. So that's, if you like, the desire behind it. The idea of building an endowment comes through gifts and through legacies and through donations from past pupils and from parents. And we're slowly building that up. And it means that we hope that in time, we will be able to create greater access for more pupils. It's a good ambition to have, and I know that.
Thank you. Currently there are bursaries and scholarships available. Could you tell me a little bit more, really for the listeners, about them?
So we have a scholarship program at 11 plus and a 13 plus and a 16 plus, 11 plus entry into year 7, and then entry into year 9 and entry into year 12. We at year 7 at 11 plus we have scholarships for academics and for music, and part of the music scholarship includes free music lessons. And then in year 9 at 13 plus we have academic and music scholarship, but also drama, art, and sport. And the same again at 16 plus, entry into the 6th form, drama, sport, and art again as well. That process for scholarships is competitive. We have an assessment day here at school, and we rank pupils based on their performance on the day, and we make awards accordingly. So it is an entirely competitive and meritocratic process, and it tries to identify pupils who are often already at a particular level of achievement in one of those disciplines. We take into account potential and the rate at which pupils can grow in those fields and how hard they're prepared to work. So there's an element of character to it, but largely that's a competitive process. The bursary program, which sits alongside it, is not competitive. That simply means testing. So we ask parents to provide evidence of their own financial need, and we make bursary awards. And that's whereas the scholarship program has a ceiling, has a cap, which is actually relatively low. The bursary program can go all the way to being a 95% bursary. In some cases, we'd even consider 100% bursary. They tend not to be up there. We often use the bursary program alongside the scholarship program. So pupils who have won a scholarship but still need a little bit more assistance, then the means-tested process allows us to give a bursary alongside the scholarship. And so in the end, it gives us greater flexibility to support families who need that support.
as a school, obviously, there's a lovely community all around you. I mean, stunning countryside, farms and villages, Tiverton itself. Are you able through the school to work with the wider community?
It is something that we've started working more and more on to try to find avenues in which we can partner with the local community. And COVID hasn't made things any easier in that regard, but we've made some very good starts. For a long time, pupils have worked in pockets of the community, working in care homes, helping in charity shops and things like that. And that's often part of their Duke of Edinburgh service element. But of late, we've recently appointed a director of community partnerships, and he's been working very, very hard to build stronger links with the local town council here in Tiverton, but also through a project that's spearheaded by our own school garden. We have a lovely school garden which has been designed by our head gardener, who is called Harry Flower, and our head of community partnership. And together they've developed a wonderful, probably about an acre of garden, which has allotments, and we grow our own vegetables there, but there's also seating places and a lovely pond, and lots of other people. It's an environment where primary school children come and visit and learn about nature and wildlife, but also about gardening. So that's been a lovely start. We have various teams of gardeners who look after the gardens at various hospice cares in the area. And so those are the types of projects that we're advancing with at the moment. And once everything settles down post-COVID, we'll pick those things up again. But there's a real appetite to engage and to work with the local community. At the moment, the next project for our school garden team is actually to renovate and refurbish a catering bar, so they can take their fresh produce to local primary schools and serve smoothies and homemade produce out of there. And so some really fun projects that are great for our kids, but we hope that will make a real impact in the local community as well.
I'm sure it will. A great sense of community. Just quickly run me through, obviously for people listening, there's the senior school, but you're also joined to the junior school, which is more or less on site. Can you just tell me your main entry points?
Yeah, so Blundell's Prep School is on the same site. It's a little bit further down Blundell's Road, but we share a campus and we share many of the facilities. So we often see prep school children here on the main campus, and they have access to all the facilities that we enjoy, the chapel and the theatre. So we see a lot of the prep school pupils here on campus, and the vast majority of prep school pupils move up from year 6 into year 7. They join us at what we call schoolhouse, which is the entry point at the senior school. And so usually about 40 pupils move up from the prep school to year 7, and they're joined by another 15 to 20 pupils from mainly local primary schools into year 7. So we have around 60 pupils in year 7. And then at year 9, pupils move into the senior boarding houses, and we get another intake of about another 30 to 35 pupils from prep schools. And so our numbers go up to around 90, 95. And then again, in the 6th form, we take another intake and we move up to about 110 in year 12. So those are the more normal and traditional points of entry. But in recent years, we've seen people arrive at different times, and it seems too that year 10 seems to be a fairly popular year for pupils to make a switch from one school to another. But those are the main year groups.
With COVID-19, it's tricky for prospective parents, or has been obviously over the past year, to get a feel for the school. And I'm sure that you're thrilled that I think we're moving towards open days in person starting again soon. What would be your advice to prospective parents and how will they get a feel for Blundell's and whether or not it might be a good fit for their child?
I think we've all become really good at these Zoom calls and Teams calls, and so I've really enjoyed meeting lots of prospective families via Teams and Zoom, and I've really enjoyed that. And certainly that's been a lovely starting point. On our website, there's our virtual open day, which includes a tour of the school and question and answer sessions with pupils and various presentations. So there's quite a bit of material available on the school website. But yes, you're right. We are now, if you like, open for visits again. And we have had quite a number of families who have booked in visits and who've been waiting for the opportunity to come and see things, see the place in person and to meet people here. And we're delighted and relieved that is the case. Our most popular way for people to see the school is through what we call guest mornings. And so quite regularly on a Saturday morning, we have guest mornings, which we limit to about 8 to 10 families. And the program is simply that people arrive, have a cup of coffee. We make sure that there are a number of teachers there who they can meet, depending on the profile of the children, whether they're interested in music or sport or drama. We make sure that the right teacher's there to meet them. I do a short presentation, then the families go off on a tour of the school with some pupils. Then finally, we do a pupil panel with a question and answer session. And those mornings are tremendously popular. A lovely way to come and see the school in action in a slightly more formal, but not too formal setting. And so families can book in to a guest morning through our admissions office. Those do book up very, very quickly.
Is that every Saturday?
Not every Saturday, but they are fairly regular.
Okay.
We do them as often as we can and as we need to. But it's a little bit more personalized than the big open day. The big open day, we're going to get heaps and heaps of families, and it's a nice introduction to the school, but the guest mornings are just a little bit more tailored and personalized, and we find they work really well.
That's fantastic. What's the rustle, and do old Blundellians come back to run in the race?
Yes, there's always a question on the Russell, and very simply, the Russell is just a cross-country race. The only thing about the Russell is that it's been going for over 130 years, and the main object of the Russell is to see how much mud can be carried by one individual for the duration of the 6 or 7 mile route. I think it's the matron's worst nightmare because pupils arrive back in house, hopefully with both shoes, often one or sometimes no shoes because they've been lost in the mud. But it is one of those wonderful school traditions that pupils have a love-hate relationship with. I think the fact that so many pupils come back and do it after they've left suggests that there's at least a little bit of love. But certainly it's a fantastic day and it draws a big crowd. And the prestige of winning the Russell, the senior Russell for boys and girls, is right up there as one of the highest accolades you can achieve in your Blundell's career. So it is competitive, but everybody runs. Not everybody runs the full 6 or 7 mile course. There's also the fun run 2.5 mile course for the younger pupils. But it is something that the whole school participates in, and there's a big build up to it. It's big inter-house competition as well as the individual competition. And yes, lots and lots of past pupils, for some reason or other, want to come back and feel the pain and get muddy again.
I could ask a really tricky question. He's the oldest person to have run it.
You know what? I can't tell. There was somebody who ran their 30th or 40th Russell in the last little while. People who do come back year after year to keep doing it. Don't ask me why, but clearly there's a pull.
Okay, my final question. I felt it myself when I've been to the school, but there's such a strong sense of community at Blundell's. Teachers have written lovely quotes for the website, and it seems that old Blundellians and parents are all very involved as well. Is there anything further you'd like to just tell me about the tight-knit community feel at the school?
I think I referred to it earlier in saying that whilst we are a boarding school and we operate as a traditional boarding school, we have a very significant local community. We are a school of Devon and of the Southwest. So our regional ties go back 400 years, and we've got families here who have been here for generations and generations. So it goes back a long way, and the emotional bonds with the community is a very strong one. But what it does mean too is that whether you live in Tiverton or whether you farm in the Southwest, or whether you come from Mumbai or Nairobi, you become part of this community, which is very rooted locally. And I think some boarding schools where everybody comes from afar, the connections perhaps aren't as strong locally. But because you've got this combination of pupils who come from afar, but also the real strong links and roots to the local community, there is that bond. And so people do come here on Saturdays to watch sports matches. They participate and come to concerts and plays. It's a very accessible and open school. I think one of the things that we've recently set up is something called the Blundell Association, which is targeted at parents, not just at parents, but also parents of pupils who have left. And that involves a cultural program of theatre trips and movie nights, but also tea in the school garden, and a sports calendar with the running club and touch rugby leagues for parents, golf days, and all those kind of things. So the school is really set up as a hub for the community, not just for the pupils, but also for parents and for old Blundellians. I think all those things contribute to a sense that this is more than just a place we come to go to school, but it's actually a hub for a wider community. We're very proud of it. We enjoy that. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for your time today. And I'm sure many people are going to find this very informative when they're considering Blundells for their children. So thank you.
Thanks very, very much, Chloe. And I do hope lots of people come and visit us here in Devon. It's certainly worth a personal visit and a look around.
Oh, I totally agree. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Education Corner podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed. Thank you to Bart and to Blundells for such a wonderful interview. Stay tuned for more coming from the Education Corner podcast very soon.